Welcome, students. I am Aurora, the artificial intelligence system on Spacegate Station. In this episode, our scientist will be conducting an overview of the scientific method to include the defining of a hypothesis. They will also discuss the concept of variables and outline their importance in the experimental process. Please stand by for transfer to Spacegate Station.
Mission Control, yes. I have confirmed that the return shuttle to Earth has been refueled, and the pilots are working on their pre-flight checklist. We should be a go for them to return tomorrow at 18:30 hours. Yes, I do believe our guests have had an amazing time visiting the station, but I'm sure they're looking forward to returning home. Spacegate Station out.
Specialist Barber. Did I hear correctly that our student visitors are returning to Earth tomorrow?
Yes, Aurora, and I have to say I'll kind of miss having the students from River City Science Academy aboard the station.
Processing. River City Science Academy Middle-High School is a public charter school located in Duval County, Florida. Their primary focus is on developing 21st century skills through academic and extracurricular programs that emphasize science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
Thank you, Aurora, for once again providing me with a description of their school. I think it's been at least an hour since the last time you did that.
You are most welcome, Specialist Barber. After all, I am here to serve the personnel aboard Spacegate Station, though ensuring they are well informed regarding all aspects of the station's operation and staff.
And you do it so wonderfully, Aurora. Oh, hi. Your ears must have been burning. We were just talking about you two.
Hi, Specialist Barber.
Specialist Barber, I am confused. These students do not display any thermal damage to the exterior portion of their ears. Has there been a fire on the station that I was not made aware of? Should I initiate safety lockdown procedures?
No, Aurora, there's no emergency. In this case, I was just using another idiom. Your ears must have been burning refers to anyone who arrives just as they're being talked about.
Interesting. I will have to save that idiom for future use.
Yes, please do. So, ladies, what brings you to the nerve center of the space station?
We were kind of hoping you could help us out. As you know, we are returning to Earth tomorrow. One of our tasks before we go back to school was to watch the scientific method being implemented on the space station and to document what we learned.
The scientific method is a step-by-step way to explore ideas, answer questions, and test predictions using evidence. While the details may vary, the process usually follows this pattern. First, you make an observation or notice if something you see is interesting. Based on your observations, you ask a question, such as, "What do you want to find out?" From there, you form a hypothesis or suggest a possible answer or explanation to the question. The next step is to conduct an experiment to test your hypothesis. After the experiment, you then analyze data and look at the results carefully. From these results, you draw conclusions from the data and decide if your hypothesis was correct.
That is correct, Aurora. Unfortunately, we've been so busy we haven't had the time to sit in on an actual experiment.
It will really affect our final grade for the field trip if we don't get to observe one before we leave.
Well, let's see what I can do for you. Here you go. Dr. Carafano is conducting an experiment in Biolab 2 as we speak. I'm sure he would be more than happy to help you all. Why don't you head over there now and I'll send him a message letting him know you're on your way.
Thank you, Specialist Barber.
You are a lifesaver.
Specialist Barber, query. A lifesaver is either a circular flotation device or a ring-shaped hard candy that was invented in 1912 by Clarence Crane as a heat-resistant alternative to chocolate. The candy's distinctive shape resembled a life preserver. I do not see how that reference applies to you.
Seriously, it never ends. I really wish someone had mentioned this in my employment description before I took this job.
Accessing NASA personnel files. Retrieving employee file for communications specialist Barber. Downloading job description to primary screen.
No, Aurora, that is not what I meant. Forget it.
Hello, Dr. Carafano. Specialist Barbara promised she would send you a message that we were visiting the lab today.
Oh, yes, I just got it a little while ago.
Did she mention that one of our goals before we leave the station is to observe the scientific method being put into action?
Oh, she actually did, and you are both in luck. It just so happens I'm in the middle of an experiment to look at the impact of solar radiation on plant growth.
Solar radiation is made up of high-energy charged particles that originate from the sun and travel through space as solar wind. These particles can be intensified during solar flares and can have significant effects on space weather. Solar radiation can be a potential hazard to astronauts during space travel.
Thank you, Aurora. That was well done. You see, students, I'm presently working on an experiment to evaluate solar radiation's impact on Japanese mustard greens. You see, one of the problems we have here on the station is that all our fresh vegetables have to come from Earth, so we have a very limited supply. Many scientists, like myself, are trying to experiment and see if we can grow vegetables on the station so that our astronauts and staff here have more available to them.
But why Japanese mustard greens?
Processing. Japanese mustard greens is a leafy green vegetable. It is characterized by its dark green leaves and has a mild peppery flavor, like arugula. It is rich in vitamins and a good source of dietary fiber and antioxidants. It is versatile and can be used in various dishes such as soups and salads. The vegetable is known for its adaptability and can be grown in a wide range of conditions.
Thank you, Aurora. You see, students, in space there are higher levels of solar radiation, unlike on Earth that has an atmosphere. And so one of the concerns we have is what kind of impact will that radiation have on plants, especially Japanese mustard greens. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of data on this specific type of plant. So I'm conducting an experiment to evaluate the impact of solar radiation both inside and outside the station.
How did you go developing your experiment, Dr. Carafano?
And did you follow the same scientific method we learned about in our science class?
Those are actually very good questions. And you know, I think with Aurora's help, we could probably go over some of the processes we follow here on the station when we're doing experimental processes. Right, Aurora?
Of course, Dr. Carafano. I would be happy to assist you in reviewing the scientific method with these students. Where would you like to begin?
You know, Aurora, I think our students are probably very familiar with the 5 basic steps of the scientific method. Perhaps we should just go a little bit more in depth. And we could start with the first step.
You mean making observations?
Yes, absolutely. Aurora, could you please discuss with us the very first step, making observations?
Researchers start by making observations to find a topic of interest. After choosing the topic, they review existing studies to see what has already been tested and what questions are still unanswered. This background knowledge helps them take the first major step in research: creating a clear research question.
Thank you, Aurora. So, Shayla, what's our next step in the scientific method?
The next step is to ask scientific questions.
Exactly. Aurora, could you please go over the next step with us a little more in depth?
After making observations and doing background research, the next step is to ask a scientific question. A good scientific question should be clear, testable, and measurable. One helpful way would be to frame the question as follows: what effect does X have on Y? To answer such a question, the researcher must identify 2 key variables: the independent variable, what is changed, and the dependent variable, what is measured.
Aurora, could you be more specific regarding variables? This part tends to be a little bit confusing.
I would be happy to. A variable is anything that can change or be measured in an experiment. Scientists use variables to test ideas and see how one thing affects another. There are 2 main types of variables. They are the independent and dependent variable. The best way to understand variables is to think of them in this way. The independent variable is the cause, and the dependent variable is the effect. The independent variable or cause is the factor you change on purpose in an experiment. For example, the amount of sunlight or water a plant receives, or the amount of time someone spends studying before a test. These would be considered independent variables because you set them. The dependent variable, or effect, is what you measure to see the result of the change. For example, how tall the plant grows depending on the amount of sunlight and water, or the test scores depending on the student's study time. These represent the dependent variables in the experiment. Remember, the independent variable is the one you change, and the dependent variable is the one you measure to see the effect.
Thank you, Aurora. That is much clearer.
Dr. Carafano, Aurora said independent and dependent are primary variables. Are there others?
Oh, actually they are. In true scientific research, we have to evaluate multiple different types of variables. One of the most common ones is something called the confounding variable. And I think Aurora can help us with this one.
A confounding variable is something not directly studied in an experiment but still influences the results. For example, imagine a researcher notices that ice cream sales and shark attacks at a beach seem connected. It might look like eating more ice cream causes more shark attacks, but that's not true. The real factor is temperature. On hot days, people buy more ice cream and also swim more, which increases the chance of shark encounters.
I must have missed that one when we were covering the scientific method in class. So, what's next?
It's the formation of a hypothesis, right, Dr. Carafano?
Exactly. Now, a hypothesis is an educated guess, and it's formed after the considering of the variables you've included in the experiment. Now, I emphasize the word educated because a hypothesis is only determined after you conduct exhaustive research of available literature and experiments to determine what your hypothesis is going to be. Right, Aurora?
Yes, Dr. Carafano. A hypothesis is an educated guess about how two or more variables are related. It's your possible answer to a research question based on what you already know from observations and background research. A hypothesis must be testable. That means you can run an experiment to check it. A hypothesis must also be falsifiable, meaning it can be proven wrong if the evidence doesn't support it. When writing a hypothesis, we often use an if-then format. For example, if I water a plant every day, then it will grow better. If a room is noisy, then people will find it harder to concentrate. The easy way to remember. A hypothesis is your best guess about what will happen, written in a way that can be tested.
That was a great explanation of hypothesis, Aurora. So, team, what's next?
That will be to design the experiment, conduct the experiment, and then gather data.
Exactly. And so, how do we develop the experiment?
That would depend on our variables, right?
Exactly. When you develop your experiment, you have to take into consideration the variables involved. And you know, I think Aurora could really help us through this process. Aurora?
When you design an experiment, you need to think about three main things. The first is the goal. What are you trying to find out or discover? Second is the variables. What is your independent variable? What are you going to change? And what is your dependent variable? What are you going to measure? Third is the resources necessary to implement the experiment. What are the materials that you will need? How much time do you have to conduct the experiment? And how much money is available to support the experiment? All of these can affect how the experiment is set up. After you have completed your plan and design, you can then carry out the experiment and collect data from the results.
Thank you, Aurora. That was a great review of the process of design and implementation.
So, where do we go from here, Dr. Carafano? I mean, once you design an experiment, implement it, and gather data?
I know, this is the part where we analyze the data.
Exactly right. Once you've gone through the process, now you need to sit down and evaluate the information and determine your final results. And I think Aurora could really help us with this process.
Processing. At the end of an experiment, researchers summarize the data by collecting and organizing the information. Next, they interpret the results by looking at what the data means. Finally, they draw conclusions or decide what the evidence shows. Based on the results, they either confirm or reject their hypothesis. If the hypothesis is supported, researchers gather more evidence to make it stronger. If the hypothesis is not supported, they rethink the hypothesis and variables, create a new plan, and run another experiment.
Right you are, Aurora. And you see, students, the last step is to share the results of your experiment. You want the world, all the scientists, to know what you've been able to accomplish, so they can either replicate or build upon what you've done in the lab.
So this is the method you've been using in your experiment with the Japanese mustard grains?
The very same.
So it really doesn't matter whether you're conducting your experiment in the classroom on Earth or in a lab on the space station orbiting the moon. The scientific process is pretty much the same.
You know, I don't think Aurora could have said it any better herself.
Actually, Dr. Carafano, I would have said that scientific inquiry is guided by established principles and an adherence to a structured method for comprehensive research to ensure uniformity and consistency regardless of the specific ecosystem.
Yes, Aurora, I'm sure that would have been a much simpler explanation.
I concur, Dr. Carafano.
Thank you, Dr. Carafano, for your help.
We really appreciate it, and good luck with your Japanese mustard greens.
Well, thanks, ladies. Stop by anytime. Enjoy your time on the station. Aurora, could you please pull up the DNA sequencing profile for batch 542 and put it on my tablet?
That information should now be available on your tablet.
That's very interesting.
Well, ladies, I hope you were successful in getting information for your report from Dr. Carafano and his salad experiment.
We did, Specialist Barber. Thanks for helping us out.
I would have hated to return to River City Science Academy after a trip like this and not have finished everything we were sent here to do.
Well, I'm glad our team here could help you guys out. To tell the truth, I really hope Dr. Carafano is successful raising those Japanese mustard greens. They would be an amazing addition to our food around here on the station. To tell the truth, the food here could use a little help.
Specialist Barber, the food provided on Spacegate Station meets stringent safety, nutrition, and palatability standards for astronauts.
No, Aurora, I am not complaining about the food.
They must be free of unwanted microbial contamination and safe for crew consumption.
Really, Aurora? I was just kidding. I know you're in charge of the food here at the station, and it's awesome.
Menu planning begins 1 year before a planned resupply launch, with professional astronauts tasting food to rate acceptability.
Perhaps we had better stop by later when you're a little less busy.
Or maybe when Aurora runs out of steam.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you all are abandoning me after all we've been through.
The crew members are trained to discard uneaten food within 2 hours of preparation and are not permitted to consume fermented foods or products with live microorganisms.
Why me?
These specifications are crucial for the health and well-being of astronauts during long-duration space missions. The Spacegate food system is a testament to the ingenuity and dedication of scientists and engineers in developing solutions to the unique challenges of space travel. The technology developed to meet the dietary needs of astronauts has evolved over the decades. This concludes our latest episode of Spacegate Station. Please join us on our continuing adventures as the crew of Spacegate Station provides engaging enrichment or remediation-based instruction to improve your understanding of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Terminating communication with Earth.